Hello, and welcome to Women Speak, a production of the Women's Resource Center in Wayne. I'm your host, Mojdeh Keykhah, and each month I will focus on a topic that will interest women and the people they care for. This interview is being conducted via Zoom during the Coronavirus Crisis 2020 on MLTV-Main Line Network. Today, Women Speak is happy to have attorney Mandy Rosenblum. Ms. Rosenblum, an employment lawyer who practices through her firm, Law Offices of Mandy C. Rosenblum, LLC, handles a full range of employment matters. She also brings to her clients 25 years of experience. Ms. Rosenblum received her bachelor's from Hamilton College, where she was inducted into Phi Beta Kappa, the Honor Society, and she earned her JD at the American University. She is the founding board member and treasurer of Women-Owned Law, an organization dedicated to supporting and advancing women entrepreneurs in the law. She also volunteers for the Women's Resource Center, having chaired several board committees and recently served as board secretary and board president. Ms. Rosenblum and I will be discussing employment law in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, with such issues as unemployment compensation and job seeking. Please remember that the situations discussed today are subject to change with changes in legislation. Also, this interview is for informational purposes only. Ms. Rosenblum's comments are not legal advice. Please seek legal counsel for your specific situation. Mandy, I am excited and honored that you are joining Women Speak today.
Thank you, Mojdeh. I'm happy to be here.
I would like to dive into the questions with how did you choose to do what you do currently?
Well, I went to law school with a strong interest in social justice, but I didn't have a specific practice area in mind. So when I started my legal career, I worked at a firm that gave me the opportunity to practice law in many areas, and I was most drawn to employment law. I have a strong interest in what motivates people. And as an employment lawyer, I'm lucky to be able to advance my interest in the law and work towards a fair and equitable workplace, and also utilize what I've learned about human behavior to solve problems. I represent employers and employees, so on both sides, it's important to approach problems with an understanding of what may be motivating the people involved.
There's been a lot going on recently with the pandemic and unemployment issues. And I was wondering if you could please describe the context of the unemployment situation currently.
Unfortunately, it's pretty bad. Since March, unemployment has been far higher than ever in history. Pennsylvania was early to close and is still in the process of reopening. So Pennsylvania has been hit particularly hard. More than 25% of the total workforce has filed for unemployment, and Pennsylvania has the 8th highest rate of unemployment in the nation. New claims are starting to go down as restrictions ease, but our future is uncertain, and it will depend on how well we do at stopping the virus and our ability to protect and cure people from it.
And how has the pandemic affected employment for women?
The pandemic has had a huge and disproportionate effect on women, and in particularly women's jobs. 1 in 3 jobs held by a woman has been deemed essential. So 90% of nurses are women, the majority of pharmacists and respiratory therapists and other healthcare assistants and technologists are all women. And women are also disproportionately working in counter jobs. So for example, 2/3 of grocery store checkout clerks and fast food counter workers are women. And since those are deemed essential, those women the good news is that they still have their jobs, but there's also bad news that comes with being an essential worker. Women are most likely to be in low paid jobs that offer little or no benefits or paid leave. and women of color are disproportionately represented in these jobs and generally have less mobility or outside support. This is compounded by the fact that women bear the majority of caregiving responsibilities. So we all rely on women to be our essential workers, but it's at great cost to many of them and their families who are sometimes in the untenable position of having to go to work in uncertain and possibly unsafe working conditions, potentially exposing their vulnerable family members to COVID-19. And in many cases, just to put food on the table, they're forced to leave their children and all their other relatives unsupervised. Women are also disproportionately affected by the furloughs, temporary layoffs, and job losses. So on the one side, women are more essential and more at risk, but on the other side, much more vulnerable for losing their compensation. So women make up the majority of workers in the categories with the highest unemployment rates in Pennsylvania: food service, accommodation, healthcare, social assistance. And again, women of color disproportionately hold these jobs.
That sounds like a very difficult situation. What unemployment laws have been passed that are urgent for women to know about?
So there have been a lot of changes in unemployment that are helpful, and they're helpful both to men and women, but women in particular should know that there are these extra benefits. So in Pennsylvania, prior to the pandemic, there was a waiting week where you had to be unemployed for a full week before you were eligible for benefits. For the time being, that waiting week has been eliminated so that on the first day of unemployment, someone is eligible to receive benefits. Secondly, unemployment previously lasted 26 weeks. For the time being, for most people, it is expanded to 39 weeks, and that may change. That may be increased. The requirement to look for work while collecting unemployment has been temporarily suspended. We'll talk later about looking for work, but it means that for those who are not able to look for work right now, they don't have to collect unemployment. Any worker who is eligible for Pennsylvania unemployment compensation benefits is eligible to receive an extra $600 per week through July 31st. So in Pennsylvania, the maximum unemployment payment is $572 per week. And with the extra $600, this makes the maximum $1,172 per week, which is far higher than ever before. For the first time, independent contractors and other self-employed people may also be eligible for unemployment benefits. This includes, for example, hairdressers, rideshare drivers, dog walkers, farmers, and many others who work for themselves or who work in the gig economy. There are also many new reasons to collect unemployment. So typically before the pandemic, if you were unemployed through no fault of your own, then you were eligible for unemployment because your job was not available. But now there are lots of other reasons, and I'll summarize some of them. If you're unable to work because you are required to quarantine or self-isolate because COVID-19, you may be eligible for benefits. That's also true if you're unable to work because you are caring for a family member who is suspected of or who tested positive for COVID-19. If you can't telework or work because you are the primary caregiver for a child or someone else whose school or care facility is closed due to COVID-19, you may be eligible for benefits. So for example, if you're responsible for taking care of an elderly parent and you cannot work or telework, then you may be eligible for unemployment benefits. If you were not working before the pandemic, unemployment benefits may also be available for situations that were not previously available. So if you can't start a job or reach work because of the emergency, unemployment may be paid. In addition, if you're the major earner in a household, because the head of the household has died because of COVID-19, benefits may be available. For those who don't have sufficient work history that would typically be required to get unemployment benefits, they may also be eligible for benefits. And it's important to know that you don't have to be fully unemployed to be eligible for benefits. Partial benefits are available for eligible people whose hours were cut or where they're also seeking part-time work. So there are a lot of situations where unemployment benefits are available, and I've asked the station to post a link to the Commonwealth's information on working and unemployment in the age of COVID-19. And there should be some helpful information there. Anybody who thinks they might be eligible may want to consider applying, and the information on the website might be helpful in making that determination. Also going to be posted is some information from the U.S. Department of Labor. There are a lot of resources on COVID, both related to unemployment and some other things that we'll be talking about. That there's a specific chart that I encourage everyone to look at because it's very helpful in determining your eligibility for financial relief and which type of financial relief might be an option for you.
That's wonderful information, Mandy, very valuable for our viewers. And I wanted to emphasize the chart that Mandy referenced on the Pennsylvania Commonwealth website that would be given by the station. This is called COVID-19 Guide to Scenarios and Benefits. It's a very helpful guide that goes through different scenarios of the COVID-19 situation and gives you your benefit analysis right there. Mandy, are there any other COVID legal changes in the employment arena that women should know about?
Yes, there are. If your employer has fewer than 500 employees, the Family First Coronavirus Response Act may be applicable to you. And that means that you may be eligible for up to 2 weeks of job-protected emergency paid sick leave if you can't work because you or your family member who you care for is subject to a government quarantine or isolation order, has to self-quarantine, has symptoms of COVID-19, and is seeking medical diagnosis. Those are paid benefits, and again, that's up to 2 weeks. In addition, if you work for an employer that has up to fewer than 500 employees, you may be eligible for up to 12 weeks of paid emergency family leave if you can't work because you're caring for a child whose school or place of care is not available due to COVID-19. Now, these two leaves are paid at different rates, and if you work for an employer who has fewer than 500 employees and you may be in this situation, you should certainly inquire as to what benefits might be available. There's also more information on the Department of Labor website that will be posted. In addition, if your employer has at least 50 employees within a 75-mile radius and you meet some additional criteria, you may be eligible for up to 12 weeks of job-protected leave if you are unable to work because of your own serious medical condition or to care for a family member who has a serious medical condition. And depending on the severity and circumstances, COVID-19 may qualify as a serious medical condition. Now, family leave, as opposed to emergency family leave, is typically unpaid, but employers may also supplement that pay. And if you have the ability to earn paid time off, you may be able to use that. Let me give you some examples of how those might work. If your employer has 10 employees, you may be eligible for emergency family leave if you can't work because you have to take care of your baby whose daycare center is closed because of the governor's order. If your employer has 1,000 employees and your doctor tells you you need to shelter in place because of an underlying serious health condition, you may be eligible for job-protected FMLA leave if you can't telework. And if the leave is unpaid, you may also be eligible for unemployment. So it's important to remember that if your leave is unpaid, you may be able to have job protected leave and also potentially collect unemployment. Job protected leave is particularly important because job protected leave requires employers to maintain health insurance benefits.
That's very valuable. That is incredibly useful information in the current situation. And I wanted to ask if these emergency laws expire, and also will the way we work change due to COVID?
So the emergency leave under the Family First Coronavirus Act is currently scheduled to end on December 31st, 2020. The extra $600 in unemployment benefits is currently scheduled to end on July 31st of this year. All of this is subject to change, and Congress has been changing things on a regular basis, maybe not regular, but frequently. So I can only give information as of today. As far as the way the workplace will change, I can't imagine it will ever be the same. Until recently, telework was considered by many to be a special benefit. Now that we've been forced to adjust, I believe that telework will be considered essential by many more employers, and many more employees whose jobs lend themselves to telework will be able to telework. I think also employers have been forced to think about employee health in ways they never have before. Employers are getting up to speed and working hard to protect their employees now. And I believe employers will find ways to work smartly in the future to protect the safety of their employees. There are a lot of other ways I think there will be changes, but those are just two big examples.
That's fascinating. A lot of rapid change in a short period of time. And what do you think women should be thinking about if they're applying for a job during COVID?
Well, you should definitely not assume that there's no job out there for you. There are fewer jobs to be had, and that's a given. And for some people, they don't have the time or resources to look for jobs because they don't have access to a computer, or they have to take care of a child or a sick or disabled relative. But for those who have the time, it is a time to remember that employers are still hiring. So, for example, one of the big areas that employers are hiring all around the country is contact tracers. Contact tracers, what they do is they find people who are infected and try to establish who they have had contact with and contact those people so that they can self-isolate and prevent spread of the virus. These jobs have expanded exponentially, and they don't require a lot of previous experience. A lot of people who were doing all kinds of other jobs or who may not have been working have started this work as contact tracing. And some of this work is also remote, which is great for those who may be compromised in their health or be uncomfortable leaving their house. So that's just one example of a job that might be out there. But lots of new jobs have been created, while at the same time, so many jobs have been eliminated or curtailed. If you can, while you're looking for work, this is a wonderful time to expand and work your network. Far more jobs are found through networking than responding to ads. This is by far the best way to get a job. And that makes sense because our personal connections are what we rely upon. So if someone says, oh, I know Mojdeh would be great for this job. Will you talk to my friend Mojdeh about the possibility of working? Well, your friend might be much more likely to hire you because they have a personal introduction. So this is the time to reach out to your family, your friends, your neighbors, people you haven't spoken with in decades. Call them, email them, text them, Check, see how they're doing. And at the same time, let them know you're looking for work and what sort of work you're looking for. And don't be afraid to ask them if they're people that they know who you should talk to about the possibility of finding work. People are looking for ways to be helpful in this time, and so many are really reaching out to help women as they search for jobs. A lot of people have said to me that they're afraid to bother other people, that so many people are busy and so overwhelmed. Don't be afraid. If someone can't talk to you because they are overwhelmed, they'll either tell you or they won't respond. And in networking, you'll never get a response from everyone, but in most cases, you'll get a response from some people, and that's a great way to start building your network and talking to people about what you might want to do, where you might want to work, and make the connections that might get you a job now or sometime in the future. Also, there are many free online resources and networking groups that are online and working by telephone. And this is a great time to take advantage of those. People are really working together to support one another. And I really encourage all women who are looking for work to take advantage of these resources. There are also resources available on putting together your resume, building your resume, cleaning up your resume, and putting your best foot forward in your job search.
That's incredibly useful information. And I also wanted to know if someone finds himself in the fortunate position of actually negotiating a job offer, what should they be thinking about during COVID-19?
Your value has not diminished because of COVID. I encourage all women to ask for the same compensation they would have asked for at the beginning of the year and to negotiate your job offer. If you don't ask, you have no chance of getting a better offer. Many women are afraid that by asking for a better offer, that the offer will be withdrawn. And I can tell you that employers expect employees to negotiate. And men in general are much better at negotiating their compensation than women. Women should not fear doing the same. Employers rarely withdraw offers because they're asked for some more money. And in the unlikely event this does happen, that's a sign that this job would have been a really bad one.
And many women find themselves wanting to go back into the workforce after perhaps spending time at home, raising children, or pursuing other endeavors. What would they want to be thinking about during COVID-19 in applying for a job after being out of the workforce for a particularly long time?
First, as I previously discussed, some of these women may be eligible for unemployment compensation right now, and they should look into that. But more importantly, as they look for a job, it's really important to know that you're valuable. You know what you're good at, and play to your strengths and exude confidence. If you were in the workforce at one time and you left, your skills haven't been lost. Now's a great time to brush up on your skills if you feel rusty, and it's also a great time to develop new ones. Again, there are tons of free resources out there now for job seekers, and if you want to brush up on your skills or develop new ones, take advantage of these resources. Also, remember, while out of the workforce, you likely develop transferable skills that employers want. For example, if you've been managing a household with several children, I can guarantee you that you've honed your negotiation skills, your management skills, budgeting, multitasking, and conflict resolution skills. These are skills that employers need, and they want reliable employees who can offer this. Also, as I said before, use your network and have that network introduce you to people who might be able to give you information that will lead you to a job. Whether you've been in the workforce recently or not, networking is essential for finding a job. And finally, entrepreneurs are popping up all over the place, and women are seeing needs and starting new businesses. For example, cloth mask making is an industry that basically came out of nowhere. And there are women who have started cloth mask making businesses all around the country out of their home and have grown those businesses exponentially. So it's certainly a possibility to start your own business. And there are, again, lots of resources out there for women who may have an interest in starting their own business to help them decide, do you want to do this, and set it up and envision what it might look like.
Mandy, that really speaks to necessity being the mother of invention and the creativity we all have in times of incredible stress. Your information today has been fantastically valuable. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, expertise, and experience with us. The Women's Resource Center is also so grateful for your long-term relationship with us, serving as our board president, and for all that you have done for us. For our viewers, thank you for watching Women Speak. I look forward to bringing you more in-depth conversations on women's issues. For more information about Women's Resource Center's programs and services, please visit www.womensresourcecenter.net.